Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Mr. Robot Season 4 Episode 2, Payment Required. This video is part of a series of videos where I review every episode of Mr. Robot. In this video I will cover Season 4 Episode 2, Payment Required. So if you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, I gotta admit, I wasn't really blown away by this episode. I wouldn't call it a bad or terrible episode, but let me just put it this way. It had more of a Season 2 feeling to it than it did a Season 3 feeling to it. It felt like filler, pretty much. I mean, we got a few big pieces of information, something setting the stage, but it did seem like a lot of the episode I was like, alright, let's move along here. But anyway, so let's jump in. Let's start with this monologue that this episode opens up with by Price, where he basically, this is a conspiracy about how Minister Zhang owns everything. He owns the leaders and blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing, felt very X-Files-y to me. How X-Files... if you ever watched that, it always talked about these huge shadow conspiracies, usually based off of real-life conspiracy theories that really have no merit to them. And it kind of reminded me of that, how there was this big shadowy organization behind everything. That basically White Rose basically ran the world. Now, I remember when I did this preseason discussion with my brother, we talked about the possibility of time travel being in the show, and he was very much against it. And everyone in the chat who were there for this discussion were also very much against it, saying things like that Mr. Robot has never been about time travel. It would be weird, it would be out of place for them to introduce crazy sci-fi elements into the show now. And one person even said, the show Mr. Robot has always been grounded. And I gotta give my honest opinion, if they introduced time travel in the show now, I think it would be less fantastical and less freaky than this monologue. I'm sorry, I really don't see how time travel would be any more out of place or any more crazy or any more fantastical than the thought that White Rose basically runs the entire world and all these historical events. He was basically behind. He was behind the Iraq War. He was behind... did they even mention 9/11? I don't know if they did mention 9/11, but I got the hint that they might have been saying he was behind 9/11. And, of course, last season we learned that he is responsible for Trump getting elected president. So... and him and this tiny little group run the world. So, I don't know. My opinion, I think if they were introduced the concept that he could build a machine that could time travel or manipulate time in some way, I think that's more believable than that he ran out of the world and was responsible for all these real life events. That's just me. I know that a billion people are going to disagree with me. But my point is, now I'm not saying that I hate this this monologue, this intro, and I hate the fact that they have this conspiracy theory where he's running the world. I'm fine with it, just like I would be fine with time travel. What I'm saying is I don't see how one would be worse than the other, or more fantastical or out of place in this grounded show than the other. I really think that this is actually more fantastical. Then, it would depend on how they use time travel. Because if they use it in like a Doc and Marty flippant way, then sure. But I don't think they would. I think they would use it in a more grounded way that's true to the show. But I'm still very much... And during this monologue, I was almost thought for a second there that Philip was going to reveal what this project under the Washington Township plant was, because he made it clear that everything that White Rose and Minister Zhang has been doing ever since, taking over the whole world and controlling the war leaders and starting these wars, it was all building towards this power plant. That was his ultimate goal. So my thinking is, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be time travel or parallel universe, but it needs to be something. If it's just turns out that White Rose is crazy, then I actually think that's the worst ending of all endings. Honestly, I would probably disown the show. I gotta be honest. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a way they could pull it off, but it can't just be crazy. It has to be something. There has to be a purpose to the machine, whether it be grounded in reality or fantastical or whatever. I don't care. But I'm telling you now, if it was, I actually do want it to be some time travel thing. And if it was some time travel thing, I would really argue with anyone who say that's more out of place than this opening monologue. I'm sorry. But anyway, moving on. So that opening monologue, to be clear, I did like. I like that we got this big information drop, and I like the scene between Elliot and Price, and I like how Elliot and Mr. Robot were basically talking to him at the same time. So it's basically showing how Elliot and Mr. Robot are like working together, they're sort of in unison, and that was really cool. And I liked how Elliot demanded that they get all the leaders of this shadowy secret X-Files organization together within the next 8 days, so he can take him down. And the Price is like, oh, what can happen? But then we see at the end of the episode that he does actually make it happen. And of course, when he walks off, Elliot, Mr. Robot's like, he's obviously not in. He just walked out. And Elliot's like, well, if he wasn't in, I would be dead on my apartment floor. And I think that's actually really good reasoning. And so I did enjoy that part of the episode. The problem is, the rest of the episode's kind of veered off on this really side thing about Elliot's mother dying and them going to look at all her stuff and just being oblivious to it. And I don't know. Like, I rewatched this show starting at the end of season 2. So I don't know if before then they mentioned exactly what Elliot's mother did to them, because Elliot and Darlene talk about, oh, how can you even care about her after what she did to us? Like, did they ever definitively say, like, why they hate her so much? I don't remember that. So, I don't know. And because of that, it just feels like I felt really disconnected to all the, they're listening to the tape of, oh, happy birthday or whatever, happy birthday to Angela's mother, and somehow she had it. Like, I don't know. That was really, I don't know. I felt like most of this episode was a waste of time, honestly. I wasn't really connected to it. And when they were doing on the storyline, like them picking out different coffins and all this stuff, I was just like, come on. Move it along. Don't really care about any of this. And, like, how they were kind of teasing us the whole episode with, Elliot was trying to find what's her face, the woman that Darlene just happened to kill, that happened to be Price's sort of inside person, the connection to White Rose, and that's who Elliot desperately needed to find. Of course, as soon as they mentioned her name, I think they showed it on the previous one too, like, it was the person that Darlene killed. So I was kind of like, come on, let's get to the point where he finds out. To the show's credit, he did find out by the end of the episode. I was worried that they would, like, leave this as a long running, like, it would take Elliot forever to figure out that Darlene actually killed her. So I like that we got that at the end of the episode. But during the episode, the way, like, she grabs his phone and didn't mention anything the first time, and I was just like, but I did like the confrontation between Darlene and Elliot, and how she's, like, figured out what he was trying to do, and sort of forced her way in, saying, like, I'm in whether you want me to be or not. And why wouldn't he? I guess, was he protective of her? Why, he knows that White Rose is going to kill her as well. So I don't know. I can kind of understand the need or desire to protect her, but I think that's why he knows that her life is on the stake just as much as his, so that's why he eventually lets her come on board. Now, this whole thing with the safety deposit box, like that really irritated me that they introduced this mystery concept that there's this mysterious deposit box. So why would she possibly have one? They think it's very absurd that she would have one. They can find no reason for it, and when they go to look at it, it's empty and it's been destroyed. I hope that's not just a red herring, because this really seems like a Chekhov's gun situation. Like, why introduce this mysterious box if it absolutely means nothing? And if it ends up meaning nothing, it's just a waste of time. That will make me look back on this episode a lot more poorly. Because then it really would be a waste of time. Oh, it's a metaphor for the emptiness she left. Oh, God damn it. Don't give me that bullshit. They need to go somewhere with this. And they have to, because it's like you don't just introduce a mysterious deposit box and never pay it off. It's like they're never using Chekhov's gun. You have to use Chekhov's gun. Anyway, so at the end, we get the huge reveal that there is a third party that is controlling Elliot. And I don't know how I feel about this. I'm going to reserve judgment and see where they take this, but my initial reaction is to be like, do we really need a third personality control of Elliot? That just complicates things. And who is this third personality, and why weren't they seen before? And this, I don't know, it just complicates everything to me. So again, I mean, they could do good things with it. I'm not going to prejudge it. I'm going to wait to see where they're going with this. But I'm not very thrilled about the prospect, I will say. Especially that ending scene when they showed the young version of Elliot and the mother who we've seen Elliot has been seeing. And they're like, oh, who are we waiting for, Elliot, Mr. Robot? And like, no, we're waiting for the other one. Dun, dun, dun. I'm just like, oh, God. I don't know. But I'll wait to see. And, of course, this mention is all about Vera, because Darlene's like, oh, you told me that Vera wasn't a big deal. And I did like how at first, like, Elliot was freaking out on Mr. Robot, and I was like, what, do you not want to talk to me? Or how dare you keep secrets? I can't trust you. We're supposed to be working together. And he stares at him and he's like, it was not me. Yeah. I don't know. To me, it would be more interesting if Mr. Robot was lying, because I was expecting him to be like, look, I had to keep this from you, blah, blah. It was too distracting. But no, he's saying there's this mysterious... We don't need another personality. I'm sorry. Sorry we don't. But anyway, it's all about Vera, a character, of course, who I really hated. I talked about the episode he was in. The main episode he was in, Brave Traveler in Season 1, I think is the worst episode, not only of this show, but pretty much of any other show. All my favorite shows, any show I consider good and not crap to begin with, is probably the worst episode. I really did rage quit the show after watching that episode, but after 2 weeks I did come back and give it another shot and won me back. But if those episodes weren't good to win me back, I would have stopped watching Mr. Robot there. I can't understate how much I hated that episode that he was in, and how much I hate this character. And so I was so disappointed when they reintroduced him at the end of Season 3, and I really hope that he doesn't play that much important in the role. I hope he goes away fast. What possible, because he didn't have anything to do with anything. And so it seems like he would just be another distraction, another way to just stretch out the runtime of the season and delay us from getting into the story. And he's just not an interesting character. So I'm not thrilled about that prospect, that he's the center of... And why would this third personality lie about him being there, or hide it from Elliot and Mr. Robot? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to prejudge it. I'm going to wait and see where they're going with this, but still, I'm not very thrilled at the prospect. And then we had the whole thing with Dom. I don't know. It just came off as a bit silly to me. The way... Like, she said, oh, I'm 99% sure, and Crazy Taxidermy Lady kills her. Yeah, the Doc Harmony kills him and makes it look like a suicide, and then come back and say 99.9% isn't good enough. Isn't it? Like, why not? I don't know. That was just a bit over the top and silly to me. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got. I mean, we got the other scene with Price and White Rose where he got pissed off and threw down the Christmas tree, but it's kind of interesting. Anyway, my rating for Payment Required out of 10, I think I'm going to give this a 5, average. There were some good things about it. The first opening sequence was intriguing, and the prospect of Price and Elliot working together is intriguing. But most of the episode was just kind of boring and filler, to be honest. And I don't like the prospect of this third personality in control of Elliot, and I don't like the prospect of Vera returning. And I thought the stuff with Dom and Crazy Taxidermy Lady, it was really creepy in the last episode. This episode went from creepy to cheesy, I'm sorry to say. I'm not saying it's unsalvageable, but I don't know. I wasn't really on board with it. So, anyway, that is it for my review of episode 2 of season 4 of Mr. Robot, and hopefully the season will get better from here. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood reviewing this, I don't know. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back every week to review more episodes of Mr. Robot, so be sure to check that out. Check out my channel as I do many more reviews on other shows like Star Trek, The Expanse, Lost, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all that. Thanks a lot for watching.